As the family on trial for killing a vulnerable man after subjecting him to years of horrific violence and humiliation.
Luton Crown Court heard how 26-year-old Michael Gilbert was kept as a slave and tortured for his benefit money. He was eventually killed and his decapitated body dumped in a Bedfordshire lake. On trial are 4 men and 2 women. Neil Bradford was in court and he joins us now. Neil.
Yes, it was a harrowing first day in what is likely to be an extremely harrowing trial. The court heard today that Michael Gilbert was subjected to years of abuse at the hands of the Watt family. The court heard he was their slave, carrying out their chores while they stole his benefits money. Now, the prosecution claim he was subject to regular beatings. He was punched, he was hit with bats, shot at, stabbed and humiliated, made to walk around in his underwear. The jury were told some of those attacks were filmed on mobile phones for the family's entertainment. Now, the prosecution say Michael was a vulnerable young man, unable to help himself and too frightened to escape the clutches of the family in case the violence towards him escalated. According to the prosecution, this was not a home for Michael Gilbert. It was more like a prison. The court heard that behind closed doors, the Watt family subjected the vulnerable 26-year-old to years of violence before killing him, dismembering and disposing of his body in January last year. The jury heard how Michael's headless body wasn't discovered until 5 months later by dog walkers at the Blue Lagoon in Islesea. It was wrapped in a bag which the prosecution claim had been weighted down with a stone from the patio wall at the Watt family home in Luton. On trial for murder are brothers Robert and James Watt, along with his girlfriend Natasha Oldfield, and Nicola Roberts, the girlfriend of the men's other brother Richard. He will now give evidence for the prosecution. The men's father, Antonio, and their mother, Jennifer Smith-Dennis, are charged with familial homicide and perverting the course of justice. All were living in the same house together at the same time. The prosecution allege Michael Gilbert was kept as a slave for the family so they could steal his benefits. He was abused, he was threatened, and sometimes even chained to his bed with handcuffs so he wouldn't escape. Luton Crown Court heard that James Watt was the main tormentor, but his brother Robert, Natasha Oldfield and Nicola Roberts were also directly involved in the violence that killed Michael Gilbert. The jury was told on one occasion Natasha Oldfield repeatedly hit Michael Gilbert in the stomach using a hammer. The court also heard how Nicola Roberts had punched Michael and jumped on his stomach. It's the prosecution's case that everyone in the house knew what was going on, but failed to confront it, prevent it or seek help. The jury has been warned to expect some graphic and disturbing detail during the trial, which is expected to last up to 8 weeks.
Well, Neil, you said in your report there that some of the accused are charged with familial homicide. Could you just remind us exactly what that means, please?
Yes, familial homicide is the crime of allowing the death of a vulnerable child or adult. It's a relatively new law introduced just a few years ago to ensure that more than one member of a household can be held responsible for the death of such a person if the evidence shows that they could have prevented it. Now, in this case, the prosecution say all in the house knew of Michael Gilbert's situation. Many of them took part in that abuse, but none of the defendants did anything to prevent the violence that escalated. Now, in the case of 4 of the defendants, the jury must decide whether this is familial homicide or murder. The trial here at Luton Crown Court continues.
Neil, thank you. Next tonight, there's anger over the decision to drop charges against the owners of 2 Rottweilers, which savaged a postman so badly he nearly lost his arm.
Keith Davis was on his round in Trumpington in Cambridge in 2008 when the dogs attacked as he delivered post to the home of Robert Stewart and his daughter Emma.
The move to dismiss the case on a legal technicality has infuriated the Postal Workers Union. Kay Prout reports.
A quiet cul-de-sac in the Trumpington area of Cambridge. In December 2008, the scene of a vicious attack. Postman Keith Davis was delivering Christmas cards to this house when 2 Rottweilers escaped from the Stewart's gated house and launched themselves at him. Mr. Davis needed 15 hours of surgery at Addenbrooke's hospital and is still not back at work.
It's a shocking decision. We're bewildered by it, obviously. Our members deliver to 27 million dresses across the UK on a daily basis, 6 days a week, and our members are now at risk, and it really goes to government now to change the law. They've done it in Scotland.
The CWU says 6,000 postal workers are attacked by dogs every year. And the CPS decided to prosecute the dog's owner, Robert Stewart, and his daughter, Emma. A decision overturned at Cambridge Crown Court yesterday.
The judge's decision was based on a point of law. The Dangerous Dogs Act states that a dog owner cannot be prosecuted if his or her animal attacks someone if it happens on private land, not public land. And where this attack happened, well, the sign says it all.
The judge said going ahead with the case, which could well have set a legal precedent, would have been an abuse of process. Until the law is changed, then, posties on private land will have to continue to watch their backs. Kate Prout, Anglia News, Cambridge.
Next, could Norwich City be about to have a new multi-millionaire owner? In an exclusive interview with Anglia Tonight, the Lotus Formula One team boss has revealed he wants to buy the football club.
Tony Fernandes had been linked with the Premier League side West Ham United, but now appears to have set his sights on the Canaries. Well, in a moment, we're going to be talking to our sports correspondent Donovan Blake about what it all means. But first, how Mr Fernandes told me of his desire to take over at Carrow Road. Buying any football club these days deserves a royal visit. Given the state of the sport's finances, some would argue a royal pardon might be more appropriate. The Duke of York was actually in Norfolk to support Tony Fernandes' commitment to the motor racing industry. It appears his East Anglian portfolio is about to double in size.
I was going to go on Saturday to the game, and lucky I didn't. Fans would have said I would have brought bad luck. Yeah, let's see. We feel very comfortable here. Colours are right, and if everything else works out, then yeah, why not?
A question football fans are always happy to answer when the idea of new money and new ownership is on the agenda.
Any investment would be good, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know they look at any investment and see, they'll weigh it all up.
If that's going to help the football club, well, obviously you've got to welcome, well, I wouldn't say investment from anywhere, but certainly probably from him, with his sort of Norfolk connections, I would say so, yes.
It doesn't matter how much really, but as long as there's some investment and, get new players and things, yeah.
So then, who is Tony Fernandes and what could he bring to a football club? Born in Kuala Lumpur, he went to school in England before graduating from the London School of Economics. His accountancy background will certainly come in handy if he takes over at Carrow Road. He made his fortune, though, when he turned AirAsia from a loss into a profit-making business, and in 2009 was 15th in Malaysia's rich list with an estimated fortune of $220 million. He'll need to spend plenty of them to get Norwich back on a stable financial footing. Other business ventures include his Tune hotel chain, while in sport, as well as owning the Lotus Racing F1 team, he's also president of the Asian Basketball League. In his spare time, he likes to play the guitar and piano. But is he in tune with East Anglia?
I'm actually going to look at a house here in a while. I'm feeling very comfortable in Norfolk. Driving around here, people are extremely nice and extremely pleasant to us.
The way Fernandes has approached Lotus F1 racing could be a signal of things to come if he does buy Norwich City. His enthusiasm and passion has seen a Formula One team go from an empty warehouse to the starting grid in under 6 months.
We've had to build 8,500 parts from scratch. You saw this place empty. You now see it filled. Everything had to be built from ground up. So it's a tough ask. But, where there's a will, there's a way. And if we put our heart in the right place, and with tremendous support we're getting from Norfolk, the kind of positive energy sometimes has a knock-on effect. So who knows?
It's this can-do approach to life that could resonate well with the current Norwich City owner, Delia Smith, who may finally be happy to hand over the reins and, of course, that all-important £23 million worth of debt to a new force within the game. Well, let's get that question of finance answered straight away by joining our reporter Donovan Blake, who's at Carrow Road ahead of tonight's important League One match against Southend. Donny, let's just clear up that financial one then. £23 million worth of debt. Do you think Tony Fernandes is a serious contributor, a serious player in buying Norwich City?
Well, today he didn't give too much away, but then again with that comes a lot of speculation, and But with that, he didn't rule anything out. And if you're talking about his financial clout, $220 million his wealth is supposed to be, which to us is about £140 million. It suggests he could be a big player if he chose to invest in football. Now, we'll try to equate his wealth with those of the chairman owners of our two championship clubs, Ipswich and Peterborough. And while Marcus Evans and Darren McCanty have formally featured on the Sunday Times rich list, there's no up-to-date figures for them. But just to put the point across, Marcus Evans did take over £30 million worth of debt at Ipswich.
Donny, if he is serious about taking over the club, what must he do next?
Well, we spoke to the football club today. They decided not to respond to the interview with Tony Fernandes. They just reiterated their position that they're working with their consultants, Deloitte, about finding new investors, and that will continue. Now, whether Deloitte provide Tony Fernandes as a possible investor remains to be seen. Whether Tony Fernandes approaches Norwich City directly remains to be seen. Now, I understand he was due to go and watch the game at the weekend. He chose not to. But in the future, if he does decide to come to Carrow Road, maybe that may signal to